Welcome to this journey through one of the most thought-provoking and accessible books on philosophy ever written, The Pleasures of Philosophy by Will Durant. Published in 1953, this work is more than a traditional academic treatise. It is a philosophical autobiography, a cultural analysis, and a love letter to wisdom. In his characteristically elegant and witty prose, Durant invites us not just to study philosophy, but to live it. For him, philosophy isn't dusty theory or remote speculation. It's a tool to face the problems of life. How to think, how to love, how to work, how to find meaning in the chaos of the modern world. Today, we'll walk together through Durant's reflections on logic, beauty, ethics, politics, and metaphysics, searching, as he does, for a coherent way to live with joy, understanding, and courage. Part 1. The Lure of Philosophy. Philosophy begins, Durant tells us, in wonder, and often in youth. It starts when a young man or woman first looks at the stars and asks, "What am I? Why am I here? What is true? What is good? What is beautiful?" But then life intrudes. The grocery store replaces the starry sky. Philosophy often gets left behind in the rush of daily obligations. Durant, however, urges us to reclaim that sense of wonder. He tells the story of his own youth, reading Plato under the stars, his mind bursting with questions. Philosophy, to him, is not the cold logic of professors, but the passionate search of lovers of wisdom. It is the art of living thoughtfully, joyfully, and responsibly. Durant emphasizes that philosophy is not confined to textbooks or university halls. It's about the questions we ask in quiet moments, when we step back from routine and look at life with fresh eyes. He invites everyone, whether young or old, to experience the pleasure of asking big questions and searching sincerely for meaning. Part 2. Logic and Thinking Well. Durant moves next to logic, not as a mathematical exercise but as the foundation of clear thinking. Logic, he says, is the hygiene of the mind. It's how we protect ourselves from being fooled by others or by our own desires. He explains deduction and induction in simple terms, but more importantly, he stresses that most of our errors come not from ignorance, but from passion. We believe what we want to believe, and then rationalize it afterward. Philosophy, therefore, is a moral discipline as much as an intellectual one. It requires honesty, humility, and the willingness to be wrong. To think well is to live well. Durant uses everyday examples to show how biases shape our thinking. For instance, we often seek out evidence that confirms our beliefs and ignore anything that contradicts them. By studying logic, we become better at spotting fallacies, questioning assumptions, and separating emotion from evidence. In doing so, we don't just think better, we make better choices in our daily lives. Part 3. Art, Beauty, and Aesthetic Pleasure. What is beauty? Why do we crave it, in nature, in people, in art? Durant devotes a rich chapter to aesthetics, arguing that beauty is order perceived by the senses. A flower, a painting, a symphony, all move us because they reflect harmony, balance, purpose. Art, he says, is the soul of a civilization. A society that forgets art forgets how to feel. And yet, he warns against both Puritanism and decadence. Beauty should not be divorced from truth or virtue. The greatest art, Durant argues, elevates the spirit. It doesn't just please the eye, it awakens the soul. Durant explains that beauty gives life meaning beyond survival. He discusses how cultures that produce great art tend to be intellectually and emotionally vibrant. But art also has responsibilities. When divorced from moral values, beauty can become hollow or even harmful. Durant encourages us to engage with art that challenges us and connects us to universal human experiences. Part 4. Ethics and the Good Life. Durant then confronts one of philosophy's oldest and hardest questions. What is the good life? Not just a pleasurable life or a successful life, but a good one. He defines morality as the coordination of desires. A moral life, he says, is one where your passions do not war with each other and your desires do not destroy others. Durant is no ascetic. He does not preach self-denial. Rather, he believes in intelligent moderation. The happiest life is one of balance, between work and rest, ambition and gratitude, discipline and freedom. He draws from Aristotle, Spinoza, and Nietzsche, but always with the common reader in mind. Philosophy, here, becomes practical. Guidance for love, marriage, parenting, even shopping. To illustrate, Durant might point to how a person who seeks only wealth may end up lonely, while someone who suppresses all ambition may feel unfulfilled. True ethics, in his view, help us navigate between excess and deficiency. It's not about rules, but about cultivating inner harmony and social harmony. The good life is not merely a private achievement. It creates a better world for others, too. Part 5. Politics, Freedom, and Civilization. No philosopher can avoid politics, and neither does Durant. He surveys the rise and fall of civilizations, asking what holds societies together. The answer, he believes, is order. Freedom is precious, but without order, freedom becomes chaos. He admires the American Constitution, but warns that democracy must be tempered by wisdom and education. Rights without responsibility, he says, lead to decadence. Durant is skeptical of revolutions because they often replace one tyranny with another. True progress is slow, evolutionary, cultural. He urges us to be citizens of reason, not partisans of rage. Here, Durant provides a historical lens, comparing the decline of Rome or Greece to the dangers modern societies face when they abandon shared values. He stresses the need for civic education, not just learning laws, but understanding our role in preserving democracy. Good governance, for him, begins with good character in the citizen. Part 6. Metaphysics and Ultimate Questions. In his later chapters, Durant explores metaphysics, not to provide answers, but to show the depth of the questions. What is the self? Is there a soul? Does God exist? He approaches these with humility. Durant is neither dogmatic nor dismissive. He believes that religion has social and psychological value, even if its doctrines may be mythic. Science explains the how, but not the why. Philosophy lives in the space between fact and faith. He writes, "Let us have the honesty to confess our ignorance, the courage to face it, and the hope to transcend it." Durant respects the spiritual impulse, even if he doesn't claim certainty. He sees religious traditions as rich repositories of moral insight and emotional strength. Metaphysics, for him, is not about proving or disproving beliefs, but about honoring the mystery and seeking wisdom in that uncertainty. We may not have ultimate answers, but we can live with purpose in the search. Part 7. Philosophy as a Way of Life. The final message of The Pleasures of Philosophy is that philosophy is not a subject. It is a way of life. It is the art of thinking things through, of asking better questions, of striving to live a more examined life. Durant doesn't want you to memorize theories. He wants you to cultivate perspective, to understand history, psychology, art, and ethics, not as facts to be tested, but as tools to live more wisely and deeply. His favorite philosophers, Socrates, Marcus Aurelius, Montaigne, were not professors but practitioners. They lived philosophy. So should we. In practice, this means reflecting before acting, learning from experience, and constantly adjusting one's worldview as new insights emerge. Philosophy helps us become more resilient, more compassionate, and more aware. For Durant, wisdom is not about complexity, it's about clarity. It's seeing what matters most and having the courage to live accordingly. As we close this journey, let us remember Durant's central message, that philosophy is not about withdrawing from the world, but engaging with it more fully. It's about replacing opinion with understanding, noise with clarity, and confusion with meaning. Will Durant wrote this book not to impress scholars, but to inspire souls. If you find yourself wondering, doubting, or simply longing for more depth in your life, then you, too, are a philosopher. And as Durant reminds us, this pursuit of wisdom, however challenging, is the most human and the most joyful pursuit of all. Thank you for joining this exploration. If this summary inspired you, I encourage you to read the book itself. Until next time, stay curious, stay thoughtful, and above all, stay awake.